All right, sir. Episode 4. We almost halfway to 10, man. Halfway to 10.
Chill, bro. Chill.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
man. Hey, that's wild. It feels like December 31st was just days ago. We was trying to figure this whole thing out. Now we got a plan. We got a purpose. We moving with intention. So
Yes, sir.
it's always good. Good to see you, brother.
You too, bro.
In health and strength. What you got going on this upcoming week?
This upcoming week. You love hitting me with those questions out the gate, huh? Nah, you know what's funny, man? I start classes next week. For those of you that don't know, I'm in college. So I'm excited about that, a little anxious, but it's funny. I was talking to Ron actually before, off camera about the club basketball scene. Got a little brother who plays. He's about to be 12 years old, and I'm thinking of possibly. I'm kind of stuck in between either. I have a couple options. I can coach my brother's club team, which would be, I think, a dope opportunity to like help him out and just kind of make an impact on the kids. But also, I've been thinking about starting a youth league, so a basketball league similar to like Phoenix is Rising or Inspire, kind of like that kind of thing, but for the West Valley, like focused on the West Valley, because in my opinion, I think the West Valley is kind of lacking lately in club hoops. But yeah, man, that's kind of what's on my head. So
Isn't Phoenix is Rising on the West Valley? That's an Avondale, ain't it?
and I'm not talking directly to them, but I'm talking to the West Valley.
I was like, okay, so we need more. Yeah, because Phoenix is Rising it's been a while for a little minute, but
Man, and it's not even. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily their fault. It's just that I think that I don't know. When I was coming up, when I was in sixth grade, I'm sure you could relate. Like, at least for me, the club scene, man, like almost every team that we played that was competitive and serious, like a serious program, it was, bro, it was about discipline. It was about getting better. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm just kind of like, I get it. Like, you want the kids to have fun, you know what I'm saying? But if you want them to develop, not just as basketball players, but just as people, man, like you gotta teach them like all those things. You know what I'm saying? So
that's real. That's real. Me this upcoming week. I don't really know what I got, bro. It's been such a hectic past week that I know next week is gonna be like trying to tighten all that stuff up. I know I will be starting a new job in like next couple of weeks. Starting like 1st of February. Had 2 interviews that went well. Declined one, picked up the other offer. So that would be cool. Appreciate you. But yeah, other than that, man, just again, just being consistent and staying focused despite all the distractions and craziness going on. But today's episode, we're talking about dealing with heartbreak, dealing with tragedy, dealing with failure, how to navigate the lows that we all experience through life. And this is going to be a very general conversation because we could obviously dive deep into each one of those, and we'll do that later on a separate pod. But just to kind of generalize it just for now, talking about how to deal with lows. So let me ask you, what is a low that you experienced that you never thought you would overcome? Like you was down in the gutter. Be real, man. Be real. Don't fake it for the people.
I mean, I can't fake this one, man. But and I won't dive too deep into it, and I'll obviously not gonna bring up names. But it's funny, man. I'm gonna talk about it because it's real, But when me and you had lunch that day, second time that we kind of met or linked up, I told you, man, and this was, I won't even put a timeline on it, but I had a previous relationship with a previous partner, and things got hectic and a lot of ups and downs. Finally, it got to I'd call it a breaking point. Ended up literally finding myself in some legal trouble, like talking, restraining order, and I'll keep it at that. But when all that happened, I honestly, like, one, I had never pictured myself in a situation like that. And two, I can't lie, like, I felt like after that whole thing happened for a while, I felt all kinds of things, man. I felt guilt. I felt like a piece of shit, to be honest. I felt like I didn't deserve anything, you know what I'm saying? And there was, I would say there's blame on both sides for why things went wrong. I don't ever think it's 100% on one side, 0 on the other side, at least from my experience. And, Yeah, man, that's probably one of the lowest points of my life, and I mean, it wasn't too long ago. You know what I'm saying? But I think that God works in mysterious ways because ended up, I think God brought you into my life, and I think God also during that time, like, He gave me a lot of reminders of why things were gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? Why I was gonna be able to move forward, why I was gonna be able to become a better person, not necessarily because of the situation, but just as maybe as a result of the situation. You know? Sorry, I think, but you were asking me like how, or you were asking me about the lowest.
Yeah, I was just asking about an event where like you just felt like you couldn't overcome a super.
Yeah, man. I mean, and for months after, I was just stuck in my head, bro. To be honest, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel better. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm ever gonna deserve healthy and this and that. Having all these just doubts. You know what I'm saying? And real like, it's funny. Like the first time that I ever even had a conversation with you at the vintage event, you were doing your thing. Like, bro, it's weird. Like it wasn't too long after when I was there or like that happened. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that's funny, man. Like that ends up happening. We end up going to the same job interview. Now we're here making podcast episodes. So I think that God works in funny ways, bro. You know. But how about yourself? Like lowest point that you never thought you would make it out of?
Question, Ron, while you're up, is that camera on? I don't remember. I don't remember if I started it, bro.
Yep, it's recording.
All right, I'll be getting paranoid. I ain't gonna lie. That's honestly a very good question because I think I myself have rarely been in situations where I felt like I wasn't gonna overcome it because I never let my mind go there. And I'm an African American male, and so I do also have parents who grew up in the Midwest. Now, Midwest is where the start of civil rights movements and racism and all that stuff started, especially in Indiana. So my mom is from Indiana, my dad's from Michigan, specifically Detroit. So these are two very rough areas. And so growing up in a strong and confident household, not necessarily that you're not allowed to think that way, but they would never allow me to let go of hope. And I think that was very important in my life to never ever let go of hope that you wasn't gonna be able to get out this situation. So I would say if there is an event or a time where I feel like I wasn't gonna overcome it, I would say probably like my teenage years in between graduating, going to college, and then like those early years in college. So I never had many friends. I was always just like in my own world, doing my own thing. Not to say that I was better than people, but it was just like I've never been a person who's been interested in partying. Never been a person who's interested in all these other things. I didn't even go to prom. Like I didn't really care about that stuff. I was always focused on basketball, focused on bettering myself and progressing and doing all those different things. And so when I went to college, I mean, it's a whole new world. I'm away from the few friends I have. There was one friend, my boy Abdi. He's my right hand man. Yep. We talk, I think, like every day my freshman year, which was crazy. We'd be playing like PUBG, which is a popular game at the time on our phones at night, chopping up all this stuff. So, that's one of my guys who supported me through that. But in that time, I was really trying to be comfortable with being alone, not just by choice, but like for the simple fact that I didn't have nobody to begin with. And that's when I started writing, and that's when I started doing all these different things. And in that time too, I won't say it was an addiction, but it was like porn was also like a thing in my life too, like lust, and I was trying to get over that too. And I'll say it was an addiction because one, I didn't use it every day, every week, or even every month. It was just like every once in a while, but it just felt like it was something I could not overcome. Like, why can I go months without watching it, and then all of a sudden, I have this inclination to go and do it again. And for me personally, the thing about that too is the way it came into my life was wild because I wasn't even looking for it. I remember I was scrolling on Instagram and I just seen at this time Instagram was like really new with videos and stuff, and they didn't have like their privacy stuff up real well just yet. And people were like posting like little snippets of like porn scenes. I remember seeing it on my phone, bro. I threw my phone across the room. I was like 15, 14 at the time because it scared me. At this point I thought women had what men had, which sounds wild, but it was just like that scared the mess out of me. And so like from then on, I'm just fighting a bunch of different battles and not sure how I'm gonna overcome them. And that's when I think leaned into my faith in the Lord and how to learn about myself a lot. But one thing, like I said, I'll say it again, like I said in the beginning, I grew up in a household where I couldn't let go of hope. That's whatever we talk about today. whoever's watching this, whoever's listening, do not let go of hope, because when you let go of hope, you were essentially forfeiting. You were surrendering and saying, there's nothing else that can happen. There's nothing else anyone can do to overcome this. I'm not going to succeed. Don't let go of hope. That's just point blank, period. So, yeah, that little weird late teenage years of my life, man, I was just like trying to figure it out, man. And I was, again, we talked about pride and ego last part. I was real prideful, wasn't one trying to tell people what was going on. And so, yeah, man, that was a time in my life where it was just, whew, you know?
Bro, one thing you told me during a previous conversation was, and I may butcher it a little bit, but you had said, I'm not anybody's savior. I just point him to the savior. Right. And ever since you said that, bro, I don't know why, but it stuck with me because I'm like, you know what? Like, that's the thing too, man, is I'll be honest, like there's been countless times, not just with like a relationship, but just with people, just even people that I may know close, people that I may barely know. I found myself trying to like act as like you would call it like the hero complex, just trying to, you know what I'm saying, like be there, like fix their situation. It's like in theory, I don't think that wanting to help someone is bad, but then you realize like you can't really save anybody, you know what I'm saying? I think you can save yourself, and I think you can, what you had just said about hope is well put, but that was a big thing for me too, and I still am working through that. Just like, you know, like I'm just, like I said, I'm inclined to help people, especially people I care about. Like that's just kind of a part of me, but then I realize too sometimes that not everybody wants to be helped, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like I don't say that to like put anybody down either or try to be judgmental, but not everybody wants to be saved, bro. You have to accept what is, and you have to be okay yourself before you can even go and do any of that stuff for other people. Like we talk about serving others, like, well, are you even serving yourself? Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that selfishly. I just mean like, are you preparing for what's to come with that responsibility? End of the day, bro, it's a responsibility to be there for somebody, right, or to care for somebody, or to help somebody, because you're telling yourself, I'm going to do this and I'm going to help this person. Then that's a responsibility. You know what I'm saying? You got to, if you're true to who you are in your word, that's a responsibility.
The fact that you said true to who you are in your word, the Bible says a good name is rather chosen, and even in that, to say, like, if you were to lose everything, you would lose your car, your house, your clothes, all you had was what you was wearing, and essentially your name. If your name don't carry a good connotation, if it doesn't have a good reputation, you're not gonna be able to do nothing. And so that's, I think, big too, is like, again, staying true to who you are, but once again, making sure that you have some integrity too. I would ask, so what is, now that we got, the tough stuff out the way, this conversation might get even tougher, but what is your typical response to when you experience a loss? Whether that's failing, heartbreak, anything, just what is your typical response?
Yeah, I'd say my typical response is automatically, I mean, if it's pretty negative or heavy, like, bro, I ain't gonna lie, like I'll get sad, you know what I'm saying? I'll get real down. I'm like, just like, damn, like it feels heavy, like it feels like a weight. But I think what I've learned too is that in life, especially the older you get, bad things are gonna happen. Like it sucks to say, and like, but it's like, bro, like the older we get, I mean, I've had people who I knew when I was a kid. I mean, they've died, they've gone to prison, just things that I was like, I would always see like on the news, you always see a stranger, someone you don't know. You're like, oh, it's never going to happen to me. And bro, and it happens so close to you that you're like, oh, like your whole world just changes so I'll say my typical response, bro, to negative things is sadness, is heaviness, or like a weight, but past that now it's just kind of like accepting that and then realizing that it's part of life. You know what I'm saying? It's still like, it's okay, good, bad. That happens every day, bro. If you think about it, things don't always go the way you want them to go. But I would say that's my typical response is, sadness. Like immediate response is sadness for sure.
Yeah, I would. Mine's kind of similar. I wouldn't say it's sadness, but I always have this desire to like isolate myself. That has always been something I've done since I was like young. Like I would isolate myself, and then my reasoning for it would be because I'm trying to put all my effort into bettering the situation. But you realize, bro, I don't care how hard you work or how hard you put your eggs into a basket of resources, or try to do whatever, you still need people. And that was just something I was really naive to. Is when I was young, I would think that if I work hard enough, I don't really need nobody. I can make it work. But yeah, you need people, and so that's why in this season of my life, and I'm so glad we started this whole even journey with that first episode where it's about reinventing ourselves, because the enemy will try to sit here and tempt me with past habits or desires that were once comfortable to me, to then go and isolate myself when I am struggling, or if I encounter something I don't like, to go and just be in your own world, because in your own world there are no conflicts, there is no confrontation, there is nobody to challenge what you were saying, because you were essentially serving yourself and your own desires. And so that's something I have to overcome, and I'm consistently working on. But the fact that I am aware, and I admit it and I make peace with it, will allow me to continue to move forward. Because if you never do that, it's like it's always gonna be an open wound. It's never gonna have a barrier to, heal itself. You will always have a scar. I'm not telling nobody to sit and act like you just gonna forget the things that happened to you, but you have to let the wound heal. And the first is to clean it out, right? None of us like alcohol or even throwing peroxide on wounds, but that's what's necessary to make sure that it's clean so it can, heal, and that's part of the process too.
Nah, bro. Yeah, like, nah, because while you were talking to, I have a friend who, and I don't know if that friend, I forget, you said his name was the freshman year. You guys were real close.
Abdi. Mm-hmm. Abdi. Abdi. Yeah. Shout out to Abdi, man. He finally got married in this past summer in Dubai. Crazy. Yeah, I ain't gonna air out his business too much, but yeah, big flex over there. Guy got married in Dubai. Shout out to him.
Yeah, man. No, I was just gonna say and again, I won't. He doesn't like his name out there. He's very low key, but he's like my brother, man. He's my best friend. It's funny because we went to the same high school, and we played on the same basketball teams, but we didn't get close till December of 2022. And now, bro, we talk almost every single day. But he's been one of the only people, like, in my times of tragedy, or just like I'm going through it, like, some real. He's been one of the only people that's been honest with me, but also understanding. You know what I'm saying? But also holding me accountable. It's like, because sometimes, I'm be honest, bro. Like, for me personally, I'm not gonna speak on nobody else. It's like, I put myself into certain situations that end up being negative, and then I wonder. I'm like, why did it happen like that? When it's like, in reality, I got to take the accountability with myself and be like, I kind of put myself in a spot for that to happen. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so, yeah, man, like, I was just thinking of him. I don't know what I'd be doing, where I'd be, like, without him. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that you were saying we can't do it without people. Right. And that's what I was actually going to come back to, is I think it's hard, but you have to find the right people too. Because that's another thing that I found myself struggling with when it came to being alone. It's like, bro, I would have, like, people that I don't even talk to no more, just people that I kind of separated myself from for a reason, but I'll find myself going back to those circles because of the isolation, the loneliness, whatever it was. And then I realized, like, yo, this is actually, like, I'm regressing with this. I'm not progressing. I'm not healing. I could actually be opening old wounds again and again and again. So I just say that to say I would rather have a handful of people that I know, like, yo, like, if something goes wrong or something happens, I know that, like, I know what it is, you know what I'm saying? Versus just, okay, I'm cool with 100, 200 people, maybe through Instagram or whatever, and I barely talk to them, but I just know that, like, that's not the kind of relationship I have with them. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you have to pick and choose the people you want to be around. And I don't say that selfishly. I just think that there's people who make you better, and there's people who there's a potential of you allowing them to make you worse, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I just want to point this out to anybody who's listening or watching, that we're not saying that isolation is something that you shouldn't experience at all. Because I think the only person who can truly admit or clean out that wound, once again, like we said, throwing peroxide or alcohol on it, is you. You're the only person who can be real about what's going on inside you. You're the only person who can, admit the things that go on behind closed doors that nobody else sees. So yeah, isolation is necessary at times, but especially when you start to begin to want to heal or grow, you're going to need to find a community, and that's where it becomes very important about who's in that community and who you're constantly surrounding yourself with. So don't listen to this and be like, oh, I'm lonely. I need to go find some friends to make me feel better. Because a lot of people do operate that way. Right. They do think that, oh, I'm experiencing tragedy. I need to go find my friend. Like, sometimes you just got to be by yourself and figure that out. But yeah, even there's a point that you said earlier that I do want to hit on, where you were talking about some of your friends who have passed away. And we look at the TV screen and be like, oh, that never happens to us. Right. There was an event I went to, and I went for selfish reasons, but I came out with it with such a profound, like, look on life. It was an event called We Go On, and it was by a former musical artist whose name is Swoop, another guy named John, and I forget the other dude's name. But it was literally about an event about grief, like dealing with grief and loss. And I remember in that event how they were describing how grief is a reminder that how fragile life is and that things ain't gonna be here forever. And it all comes back again to being intentional, because a lot of us will shoot, bro. I can't even. I'm sure there's a statistic out there somewhere to tell us how long some of us are gonna be on our phones and on social media, but it'll probably be months, days, weeks, and like, where else can you put that time? We say we don't have time to do things or whatever. So I just want to say that, yeah, we not up here trying to act like you can just avoid losses or lows in your life, because they're going to happen inevitably. But you can always learn from, that's for sure. And some things you are tough to learn from, like losing someone. How do you learn? But again, just trying to find the positive in everything. So.
I think you had said this previously off camera at some point. You said that, or you might have even said it on one of the podcasts, I forget, but you said failure has become like my friend. Like, I welcome failure. And I think that also relates to welcoming losses, bro. Like, losses look all kinds of different ways. It's tragedy in family, loss of a previous partner, loss of money. Like, so many things you can lose, quote unquote. But in order for you to win, and when I say win, I think that's subjective, right? Whatever you define as winning for you. In order for that to happen, you have to accept that the losses are going to come. You can't avoid them. And I mean, when they happen, you can run away from dealing with them, but then that just prolongs the wins. You know what I'm saying? Life is about wins and losses, W's and L's. Like, even Michael Jordan, man, right? He's like the best player ever. Like, he took L's too. You know what I'm saying? It's not always sweet, but yeah, I just like what you had said previously about failure has become my friend. Like, losses, you know what I'm saying? Failure and losses go hand in hand. So.
For sure. Yeah, and even in that, there's I want to say, I don't know if it was a Bible verse that really brought it to my attention, but there's a Bible verse within the text that speaks on, was kind of like my favorite ones. It's consider it pure joy when you experience trials or losses of any, I think it's trials and tribulations of any kind, for in the end, or perseverance, something. In the end, your the testing will, I don't know. Anyways, it ends with like producing perfection. Like, you'll be perfect in the end. And again, paraphrasing, you can go find it. I know I should know. I should be better about this. But Okay. But yeah, again, Bible verse. I'm sorry to my faithful listeners who are out there listening, and they you might be disappointed in me for not knowing that verse. But y'all can find a promise in the text. I ain't making it up. But that verse is really powerful to me because I think also when you read that and then you go read what's in Proverbs, it always talks about that wisdom is always available to us. It's always around us, and it's hidden within chastisement or losses or whatever the case may be. Like there's always something to be learned or there's always something to grow from or whatever. And I think a lot of us are just I don't even know I don't want to say it's pride and ego, but we just don't want to listen. Sometimes because it really does suck having to go through the process of reliving some things or dissecting things that already hurt and suck in our lives and trying to pull whatever we need to learn out of it. But once again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If we didn't struggle, I don't think any of us would probably think about changing. If we didn't encounter those things that suck. So
I'm not gonna say it wouldn't be worth it, but it'd just be kind of like, what's the meaning? You know what I'm saying? Like if you just, that's what I'm saying too, bro. It's like, depending on what kind of person you are, what you want in your life, like if you were just able to just get that like so quickly and easily, like it's like, well, what's the point then? You know what I'm saying? What's the meaning of it? You know what I'm saying? If I can just go and I don't know, like find me a great woman and you know what I'm saying, but it's just like instantaneously and we just get married like within an hour. That's not how it goes down usually, you know what I'm saying? So it just wouldn't make sense for anything else to happen that way either. Now I did want to ask you a question though. So like when you said that failure has become your friend, like when you do fail or you do something that it doesn't result or the outcome that you wanted doesn't happen, how do you get over that and how do you move forward onto the next thing?
Fairly easily, honestly, as crazy as it sounds. Now that I have that perspective on failure, when I try something and I don't get the outcome I want, like, what is it? I don't know if you, I think you might have saw, but on my Instagram page for the brand, I posted some different samples designs, and I went ahead and started working on them, and they did not come out the way I thought they would. But it's just like I don't even have a feeling towards it because it's like that's what failure is supposed to do. All it is giving me instruction. Like I don't see failure. Let me say this: I've taken the emotion out of failing. That's the best way I can say it. Because when we fail, there's an emotional connection there. Like we felt like we deserved something, or we felt like we're better than that, or whatever. I've taken the emotion out of it, and I've just taken it for what it is. That didn't come out the way I wanted to. Why? Now I'm asking myself why. Well, X, Y, Z. Well, that took some artistic skills that I just don't have. We need to learn how to do that, or stuff like that. So it again, because I've studied the word and I've meditated on it, I now have that perspective. But if I wasn't willing to listen, if I wasn't willing to be real with myself and sit myself in the mirror and ask what I need to work on, I may have never came to that conclusion. But yeah, the best thing I could say is I took the emotion out of it. So now it's just I take it for what it is. I look at the facts. I don't add any opinions to it. It's what happened. This, and this. Okay, so what's the response? How do I fix this? What am I trying to get to? And yeah, like I said, taking the emotion out of it completely.
No, I think when emotions, bro, like, because emotions, I don't think we can, I think people have this misconception that you can, like, just get rid of emotions. It's not possible. But what you can do is respond differently when they do come and then move that way. And I think that's a good roadmap to just life in general. Because, again, like we talked about, losses happen, bad things happen. But it's like, how do you respond? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to... and this, I'm asking myself this, like, am I going to go crawl in a hole for 2 months? Or am I going to, like, you know what I'm saying, like, do something differently, figure it out, fix it, improve, whatever it is. But what I was going to say is one thing that I've learned too, like on this journey thus far, is that so you said taking emotion out of it. I'm also trying to take judgment out of it. I don't know how you feel about judgment, because I think another thing too, I'll be honest, is like there'll be moments when I'm talking to people who typically I'm not super close to, or I may even be close to, and I'm kind of hoping that they understand where I'm coming from, and the conversation just doesn't go that way, and then it's kind of becomes an argument or whatever it is. But then I realize, I'm like, yo, like, I got to chill out, because this person has lived a different life than me. They've gone through different things. they probably haven't gone through the same things or even similar sometimes. So it's like, I think that that's another thing for me is that judgment and emotion, like, they got to be taken out of the equation when you're on this journey of self-improvement and just life. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a big one for me. How do you think how has your perspective on judgment changed? Because I know that we've talked about it a little bit before, but just at this stage in your life, like, how do you look at that word? Like, do you think you still judge people? Like, do you think that you're more aware of when you do it?
I think, let me say this. I think it's hard to completely eradicate how our brain works. So our brain works with taking certain, stimuli we run into and creating a conclusion. So let's say, like, if you ran into a girl who was dressed all risque, right? She had just a bra on, and then she had like a short skirt and some heels. You might say, all right, well, I've been in a situation before. I'm not dealing with that. And it's hard to like separate that because it's just simply, again, a shortcut our brain makes to make things easier for ourselves. So I can't sit here and say that I am completely without judgment because based on my experiences, there's just certain things I'm going to do, again, because I've had those situations happen to me. But for the most part, I'm from afar. I never really judge folks at all. There's certain stuff I can say I don't do, like I won't do that. But to say, oh, they're a bad person or make a conclusion from one instance is, I think, insane. But I do know there was something I heard a long time ago, where someone said it only takes an ounce of information to reach a conclusion, but it takes a ton, and literally like in weight, a ton, to change that. Because if I came, let's say someone walked in this door right now, and they walk in the door and they see me hitting you in the face, and yelling and screaming, oh, that dude has a temper, he's out of control, like what's wrong with him? That they've already formed a conclusion. Now, for them to think differently of me, they would probably have to see me 1,000 times and not hit nobody, or to be the calmest in the room, and so that's what it comes down to. So, I would say, for me personally, knowing that, I just, yeah, I can't say I'm without judgment because once again, I can't recreate how my brain works, but I do my best to either put myself in people's shoes or to just at least remind myself that I'm looking at a very small part of the whole entire story. Because I know I've had conversations with people before that, I don't know if you know this, but like in the Christian faith, there's this specific chapter. It's called Proverbs 31, where it describes what a virtuous wife is. And everyone always talks about it, especially males, like, oh, I want a P31 woman, da da da, whatever. So we can all say that there can be instances where a woman who is, let's say, a Proverbs 31 woman isn't acting as such because someone put her in a situation where she can't be that. Because I think part of in that verse or in that text, what people don't realize is what does a male have to do for a woman to present herself this way? Because it talks about like cooking and cleaning, and well, not cooking and cleaning specifically, but just doing certain things. And it's like, what is a man's role in this, right? Like, what does a man have to provide, or what atmosphere does she have to be in to be this person? So it's like if we're dropped in any situation, we're gonna be completely different than what our character normally allows, and so I think that's important too.
No, it's funny because I've never. You said Proverbs 31. Gotcha. Yeah, I've never. Not too familiar with it, man.
So dang, I left my Bible in the car. I would grab it, but it essentially like the first part of it is, I believe, I don't know if I know it's a woman talking to her son about something, and then the second part is like it literally says the virtuous wife, and then it like describes in a long list of what a virtuous wife is. The equivalent to it for males, people say, is Ephesians 5, which essentially talks about like man loving woman as God loves the church, which church means all of us. That's part of it too, but sometimes I challenge people to like go look at Proverbs 31 and think about what the man's role is in that, because there's not another text in the Bible that really goes into detail like it does in that specific section for man as it does for woman. One thing I want to ask is, dang, I'm over here thinking about the Bible now. We're talking about losses and tragedy. So what has been very helpful to almost overcome the losses you do experience. So, I mean, I know in previous podcasts we talked about how failure was almost a trigger for you to overthink. Have you changed your relationship with failure or losses? Is there a certain process that's going on that's helped you at all?
So I think right now it's fluid, just because I mean, when I said that, it wasn't too long ago. You know what I'm saying? But it's fluid in a good way, in the sense that, um, now I try to. It's not like I try to lose. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of us don't want to lose. So, but I also don't avoid the possibility of failure, because the reality is too, man. Like, and I always go back to basketball, but started playing when I was 5 years old. There's probably so many moments that I don't even remember, just because of how long ago it was, where I quote unquote failed, where I did not succeed. But as a kid, and it depends, I guess, like how you see it even as a kid, but you realize that a lot of those times when you were that young, it's like, it wasn't really a failure. It was just part of the journey. It was just part of learning. It was part of improving. So I'd say my relationships definitely changed. Like, I don't try to avoid it anymore. You know what I'm saying? I try to welcome it. Now, that's not to say that I try to shoot myself in the foot and set myself up for failure. But it's just that I no longer look at it with such a negative lens, or, oh my God, and it's tough though, I'll be honest, because a lot of the people that I surrounded myself my entire life, whether by choice or not, like family, obviously you can't, now that you're older, you have more options, but I just mean that people that have been around me will tend to tell me like, oh, you have to live your life this specific way and it's got to go like this. And if you don't do this, you're never going to quote unquote succeed. And it's like, bro, breaking that mindset is hard because I'm so used to it. But then also looking at people who have accomplished so much. And when I say so much, there's so many different people I can name off. But it's like, looking at that gives me what you referred to earlier as the hope. The hope that this can happen the way I want it to happen, or, the W will come. But I also have to be accepting the L's along the way, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with it. So just changing my mindset on that, like, just like not even like being scared by failure no more. Just saying, you know what? I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm going to go as hard as I can. And then if it works, cool. Continue. If it doesn't, reassess, adjust, and attack. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my lens on it. I'm not going to say I put that into action every day. I'm still working on it. But yeah, bro. I mean, I kind of know your lens, but if you want to add something like on how you see it.
Um, So I mean, you mentioned earlier, for those who either are just joining us or maybe more paying attention, my specific lens or viewpoint on failure is, like I said, I welcome it. It's my best friend, because I think the world spins it as some type of enemy, like it's some opposition. We're trying to avoid it, and in reality, failure is your best friend. It's, like I said, it's what's going to lead you to the answer anyway. If you fail enough times, you will be successful. And I think, funny enough, Warren Buffett, who those may or may not know, is one of the more wealthier people in the world. And he said he will not invest into someone's company if they haven't failed at least 2 or 3 times. Because if you fail, then you know how to deal with it. For those who've always been successful, it's hard if I threw, a wrench in the game, that you would ever know how to overcome that. So I think it's important to embrace your failure and learn from it, because if you don't, you end up in the same spot anyways. And I think Einstein or someone said the definition of crazy, or definition of an idiot, is to do something over and over again expecting a different result. And the only way you do something differently is if you learn from it. So yeah, man, as far as it goes for me, like I said, always going back to the word in the Bible and having to read it for myself, which I'm going to try to redeem myself, because I think I remember the verse now. It's, consider it pure joy. My dear brothers and sisters, consider it pure joy when you encounter trials of any kind, for it will test your faith. For the testing of your faith produces perseverance, and in the end, you'll be perfect, lacking nothing. As close as I'm going to get. I'm going to be real. As close as I'm going to get. I know it's not word for word, bar for bar, but it's as close as we'll get. And that's like that verse I lean on a lot. Because, again, matter of fact, if we think about it this way, what's the easiest thing to do? If you ran into failure, what's the easiest thing we could possibly do? Quit. Give up. And you're telling me you're going to do what's easy? Is the easy route ever been the smartest route for a lot of us? Probably not. Probably not. Like, so, I think looking at it that way too is asking yourself what's easy and what's hard will typically set you up for success as well. So the easiest thing is give up because you ran into failure, or give up because you embarrassed yourself. The hard thing to do is get up, dust yourself off, and say, I'm gonna keep going anyways. So.
Sure. I like that, bro. Just to add on to what you were saying, for me too, and it kind of relates to everything we've been talking about in the last few podcasts, self-confidence, reinventing yourself. Is like just even the idea of me, even now, but just more so when I was like 18, 19, right? I looked at these people who had businesses or, certain things of that nature going on, and they were doing it on like a large scale. And I looked at that with admiration. I was like, yo, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder, how do they do this? Now that I'm actually starting to read about business, learn about business, even kind of try my hand at business, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I always feel like, damn, like I don't know if I can do this. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just starting. When you just start at anything, you most likely are gonna suck. You know what I'm saying? But what keeps me going is just realizing that the people who are doing it on a large scale, they also went through the same feelings, now maybe not the exact situations, same feelings, similar, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word. Similar circumstances. There you go. Yeah, obstacles. And I just remind myself of that. I'm like, that's called failure, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're first starting out, when you don't know what to do, like you try things, they may work, they may not, but as long as you don't give up, as long as you don't quit, you didn't really fail either. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it's a failure in the moment, it didn't work out, whatever, but like I personally believe that you don't fail, or you only fail when you quit. Like that's like the most massive failure that you could ever have, and how do you come back from that? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because once you quit, it's like you're telling yourself, like, I'm not good enough for this. I'm not capable. And I just think, like, you gotta, that's like your enemy in a sense, quitting. So.
And that even comes back to the point I made earlier. I'm going to steal this quote from John. I think his last name starts with an O, but like I said at that event called We Go On, he said, tragedy doesn't ruin people, hopelessness does. And once again, hope is your will to win, your will to survive, to figure it out. When you run out of that, you wave the white flag like it's over with. Like, yo, do as you will, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, man, in order for you to win and to not quit, you legit have to believe that tomorrow's going to be a better day. And I would say to anyone, don't make a rash decision to take your life, to quit, or to do anything else based on, I don't care if it's a few days, a few weeks, whatever, because tomorrow could be the day you win. And I personally know I serve a God who can transform anyone's life overnight. So don't be so urgent to make things happen the way you want them to happen that you forget that it is a long journey to begin with anyways. So, yeah, man, yeah. Such a good conversation, man. So good, so good. Do you have any tips or useful information that we haven't already said that would be helpful to anybody?
I don't want to be, I don't think I am, but I don't want to be repetitive, but I would just say that when you are like on this journey of trying to transform your life, or you're trying to just change things up, you're trying to improve, it's like you have to realize like there's levels to this, and there's steps that you got to take. Like there's no shortcuts. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't shortcut your way to the success we were talking about earlier, which is subjective to whatever that is for you. So again, like whether you list out the steps, whether you have them in your head, like take the first one and see where that takes you. And while you take the first one, like give it everything you have. Don't just go into it thinking like, okay, like I'm just gonna give minimal effort, or this probably won't work. Like you have to change your mindset on things, man. Like you gotta be willing to start from zero. You gotta start over. It's like goes back to that reinventing yourself. You have to be like, again, like willing to accept those consequences, whether good, whether bad. But yeah, like what you were saying too is I don't think it's ever worth it to lose hope, to take your life, to feel like your situation will never get better, because it's not true, man. Like it's not true. If you have any kind of will, if you have any kind of hope, then you already are a step ahead. You know what I'm saying? You already are moving in the direction you're supposed to be moving. Um, so that's my piece. I would also say be honest with yourself. I think I know I've personally a lot of times have lied to myself and like, yo, I'm straight, or yo, like what I just did is okay. But deep down, I know whether or not it's okay, whether I messed up or not. You know what I'm saying? I could lie to myself all day. I could lie to you right here, bro. I could have just lied about a story I told, like, and you'd be like shaking your head because how do you know? But it's like when we get out this room and I go look myself in the mirror or I go do what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna know whether or not I was being honest, whether I was being real, and it's hard. It's not easy. But that's my piece. I'm gonna keep it short. Now, if you have something to add, like,
Um, yeah, I think perspective always comes into play with things like this too. Like I think we tell ourselves it can't be worse. It can always be worse, bro. There's somebody out there who's living a worse reality to you. I mean, than you. But also too, I will say this. I think what's helped with I guess my attitude change when it comes to failure or losses in general is that losses truly just make room for bigger blessings. Let's think about a cup, right? You fill that cup with water. If it's filled up, ain't too much I can add to that. Ain't too much I can do. But if you empty the cup, or if you drink all of it, it has a chance to be refilled. So I do want to say that piece as well. Like, don't see losses as a place where it's over. It's just beginning. It is just beginning. And I told that I told that to I mentioned it before, the girl in Florida. We had a conversation about it. But yeah, I think losses and tragedy don't mark the end of something; it marks the beginning. And so yeah, that would be my piece to anybody who's out there. Don't think that because you failed or that you embarrassed yourself or that you lost somebody that it's over. No, it's just the beginning of a new chapter. So
that's real, bro. And real quick, I just want to add this too. I noticed that, sometimes when I'm consuming content like on YouTube or social media, like just, I don't know why. I've done this more recently and I try to get away from it, but I'll go into the comment section. And man, I'll just be reading. Oh man, like there'll be positive comments. There'll be people who are like being uplifting, but then man, I just read some of these outlandish, like the most hateful thing I've ever heard. I'm like, man, like, and yeah, man, and I'm just like, yo, like I sometimes too, I've gotten in my head about stuff like that. Like I'll read comments, right, and say it's another podcaster, bro, who's even doing it on a bigger scale or who's had the successes and the wins, and it's like I realize though, I'm like they're still getting hated on, and they've proved like, they've proved something by this point, and there's still people in the comments with the hate, the envy, and going back to that whole judgmental thing earlier is like I've learned to understand that a lot of times when people hate too, it's because not always for this reason, but it's because there's something inside of them that they may hate or they may not like or they may not be okay with. So again, man, like like I said earlier, there's a difference between being a nice dude and being a good dude, and it can be hard to know like the line. But at the same time, it's just like I said, coming from that place of understanding, I think is huge in order for you to also make progress on your own journey. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have people close to you probably like thinking you're weird or thinking like my boy, right? Bro, telling you like he's an animal in the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes he'll do two a days, and I'm just like, bro, like you're crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I now understand why he does it, and I also understand that like that's his thing. You know what I'm saying? So he progresses in that, he improves in that, and but to get to my other point too is like there's other people who will look at that and be like, yo, like they hate on him, bro. They're like, all you do is work out and go home, and because that's what they think, that's what they perceive. And it's like even if that's the case, bro, like what does it matter to you? You know what I'm saying? What does that have to do with your journey? And so yeah, man, I just want to end on that too though, is like love will always beat hate, bro. And hate can be horrible. It can be like it can be really bad, but love will always trump hate. So I think move with that in mind and love yourself, but also, love thy neighbor too, bro.
absolutely, amen, amen. Yeah, man, don't waste your precious time hating on other folks, man. You get a limited amount, and you can't go buy more. You can't go give yourself more time. So yeah, just be intentional with every moment. So, man, with that said, appreciate all y'all for tuning in. All those who are listening. episode number 4, man. Like I said, almost halfway to 10.
In the
Let's
books,
go,
man. In the
man. Let's
books.
go, man.
In the
Appreciate
books.
all y'all who are rocking with us, and yeah, man. Let's keep it rolling.
Yes, sir, man. It's your boy E.
It's your boy G, and we are signing out. Catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir.